Check, mic check. 1, 2. Check 1, 2, 1, 2. You good, Daisy? Wait for Brad. You. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Check 1, 2. Hey, Brad. Keep talking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 3, 4, 5. No problem. You good? See, Matt?
Thank you for being here this morning. I'm John Hage, the CEO of Charter Schools USA. This is one of our high quality and many of our high quality schools across the state of Florida. NPrep is an amazing school. It's a school of innovation. It's a school of wellness, innovation, science, health. We're also focused on financial literacy. It's a very, very big deal today to have the governor of the state of Florida here. I want to introduce our amazing governor, Governor DeSantis. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks. It's wonderful to be at Innovation Preparatory Academy. So thanks, John, for the introduction. We're going to today highlight financial literacy. And so this is a good example of a school that has a great financial literacy program. We want to make sure that that's something that's available for all students. We have with us today, of course, Commissioner of Education Richard Corcoran on his farewell tour from our administration. We have Yaneli Espinal at Next Gen Personal Finance, who helps young people learn about personal finances and investing. We have Amy Nadeau, teacher here at Innovation Preparatory Academy. Dr. Sarah Capwell, Deputy Director for Hillsborough, Pasco, and Manatee for Charter Schools USA. Eddie Ruiz, the State Director for Charter Schools USA. Kurt Browning, Superintendent of Pasco County School District. Alan Altman from the school board here in Pasco County, and then, of course, Senate President Wilton Simpson from Pasco County, Representative Demi Busada Cabrera, who is the author of the legislation we're going to sign today, Senator Danny Burgess, a local guy, and then Representatives Maggart, Mariano, and Zika. So I want to thank them for their productivity in passing the legislation that we're going to highlight today. We try to really work hard to provide students with the fullest education possible. We're a state that believes in high standards. We want high academic achievement. We want to be able to provide a foundation for students to be able to go to university and do really well if that's the choice that they make. And we're proud of our state university system as being ranked #1 in the nation by U.S. News and World Report, and is actually affordable. We don't let them raise tuition, and so you will not have to go $150,000 in debt if you want to get a degree from a state university in Florida. And so we think that that's important, but we also recognize that there are a whole host of other areas that are also important in addition to college prep. So we've stressed vocational education, skills-based education, career education in a variety of fields, which right now are in really, really strong demand. Some of these things students will be able to take with them regardless of what they do. We've also had an emphasis on American civics because everyone's going to be called upon to be a citizen when they get out of school and exercise the right to vote and all these things that are so important to make sure that we continue with the experiment in self-government. Today, I think, is good because what the bill's doing with financial literacy is really providing a foundation for students that's going to be applicable in their lives regardless of what path they take. I mean, if they go the university route, postgraduate, any of that, they're still going to need these skills. If they go right into the workforce, they're still going to need these skills. And so any different endeavor that you do to be able to be well-versed in financial literacy, that is going to help you. And I think that what we're doing here today, we're going to be signing SB 1054, which was Senator Hudson's bill in the Senate and Representative Cabrera's bill in the House. It will require all Florida high school students to meet a financial literacy 1/2 credit requirement in order to graduate. And so this is something that will start to apply in the 23-24 school year. So students now are going to continue meeting the requirements that are in place at this time. But this will provide a foundation for students to learn about the basics of money management, understanding debt, understanding how to balance a checkbook, understanding the fundamentals of investing. And so thus far, any financial literacy has really been intertwined with economics courses. Economics is a little bit different than financial literacy. And so we want a strong focus on economics, both micro and macro, but you want to also have standalone financial literacy. So I think this is going to be something that's really going to be good. We think that it'll help improve students' ability in financial management for when they end up in the real world, but also using these skills as pathways to high-demand fields, which there are very high-demand fields in this regard. And so this is building off the work of my administration as well as Commissioner Corcoran to eliminate Common Core, which we did when we came into office. I promised we would do it, and we did it. Our best standards for math actually has financial literacy principles embedded in there. Common Core did not recognize financial literacy as something that they had in the Common Core curriculum. And so we think there was a whole host of reasons why we wanted to go beyond Common Core, but financial literacy is one of those things. So today's bill signing, I think, will be well received. I think we're going to continue to work to provide students with the best possible skills that we can. And again, that's a variety of different ways. And so hats off to the legislature for doing this. This is just one of many different announcements that we've been able to have over the last couple weeks. Many of you remember we were actually in Pinellas County when we signed the bill for eliminating the FSA. So we're going to progress monitoring, which will reduce the amount of time that students have to devote to test taking. It provides real-time feedback throughout the various junctures of the school year, both fall, winter, and then spring, and it allows a probably more accurate assessment anyways, but I think assessments that are going to be more student-friendly, parent-friendly, and teacher-friendly, that's a big deal. I mean, this was a hallmark of the school year in the state of Florida for a long time, and there were obviously reasons why that was done, but we also had a responsibility to not just do things, because that's how they've always been done. You do things and figure out are there better ways to do things. And Commissioner Corcoran, I remember he came to me about this, and I said, yeah, look, we've got to be willing to innovate. So we're able to do it. So that's going to be a really, really big deal. That will take effect next year. So there is one more FSA for the students this spring, and then as we get into next year, that will be in the dustbin. So that's really, really significant. And then what we've been able to do for teacher compensation. We started in 2020, Commissioner Corcoran and I proposing increasing teacher pay, focusing initially on average minimum pay, because the fact of the matter is, if you want to recruit good folks in, it's not that people expect to get super wealthy teaching, but you got to be able to make ends meet. And this was even before the Biden inflation. We saw that this was something that was difficult for people. So we did that, and we've done a total of a variety of forms of compensation increases. We've done $2 billion in compensation increases for teachers, and that's all teachers who are public, both school districts as well as charter schools, and that's really made a huge difference. So we're now one of the top 10, maybe 5 states, depending on how you calculate it, in average minimum compensation. There's only 12% of school districts across the United States have an average minimum salary of above $40,000. Only 12%. In Florida, 92% of our districts do because of our efforts. And so we're going to continue to build on that. But however, because we had such a strong response from the legislature in previous years, this year we did the most money ever in this teacher categorical for compensation, $800 million, and more of that is weighted for additional compensation increases for teachers who are experienced, who are not necessarily at the minimum. When the minimum is not just starting, it's anybody. So we've raised the minimum above where a lot of experienced teachers had been, particularly some of the younger ones. And so they're all swept up in those increases too. But then also being able to do salary increases for folks who have been teaching a long time. So that's a really big deal. And so we were able to highlight that. I haven't signed the budget yet. You got to go through all the different line items, but I was able to announce yesterday, that $800 million is approved. You can take that to the bank, and so teachers can expect an increase in compensation. So we've been able to do that, and we've got other things we're going to be highlighting over the next days, weeks, and months. But today is something with the financial literacy. Wasn't necessarily the most discussed piece of legislation during the legislative session, but I think it's going to have a really positive impact on student achievement and student success. And so I appreciate what the legislature did on this. I look forward to signing into law momentarily, but before I do that, we've got a great motley crew of speakers here, so we're going to bring them up and let them have some time. So we'll start with our Senate President, Senator Simpson.
And I want to thank the governor for his steadfast work on education. We were very proud this year, obviously around $800 million of teacher pay raises. Last year was over $500 million. So we've had a very good emphasis on our K-12 education system the last few years. We believe that will obviously lead to much better outcomes as generational poverty can be broken through your K-12 system. Less abuse in the homes and things of that nature as we continue to educate our population, and we need to attract the best that we can. This bill today, Senator Huckel served with me for my first 6 years in the Senate, and you should look up Senator Huckel. She was a classroom teacher, and we've tried to pass this bill for nearly a decade now. Senator Huckel carried this bill. She passed about 4 years ago, and we were very proud that Senator Hudson from her area picked up this mantle and ran with it. So we're finally glad that we've got this across the line. With the rise of our gig workers, with the rise of student debt and things that can go wrong in lives at a young age that prevent our economy from growing, right? That prevent folks from coming out and starting businesses because they're in debt or buying their first home or any of those things. I think this is very important. I appreciate the governor's work and the work we're going to do here today in signing this piece of legislation. And thank you, Commissioner Corcoran for your work in this area, and I think this is going to make a big difference for our state moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, Representative Demi Busada Cabrera.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank my counterpart in the Senate, Senator Hudson. Thank you to Speaker Sprowls, President Simpson, and Governor DeSantis for recognizing the importance of this piece of legislation. It's our responsibility to make sure that we set up our students for success after high school, whether that means a 2- or 4-year institution or whether that means a college or university isn't part of their path. For me, a big driving force behind wanting to carry this piece of legislation is I think back to when my little sister Shayna graduated from high school. She was out maybe a year, and I looked at her and said, "Oh, did you file your taxes yet this year?" And she kind of looked at me with a blank stare, kind of, "What do you mean?" And I was concerned. But this goes beyond helping our students understand what it means to pay a federal income tax or, balancing your checkbook or your bank account. It helps our students succeed financially. Whether our students choose to go to one of our great colleges or universities, do a trade or apprenticeship program, a career in the arts or the military, every student deserves to be equipped with the education and knowledge to succeed and thrive financially in our society. And thank you, Governor, for your leadership on this.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Okay, Yaneli Espinal, come on up.
So I feel like I'm right back home in a school building. I started my career as an elementary school teacher in New York City at a charter school where the students were eager to dive into learning. It was amazing. And then I quickly realized that I'm teaching them reading and writing and math and science and social studies, but where's the money management? We're teaching them about financial literacy. And I'm a daughter of immigrants, so my parents ran a household where it was cash only. So I realized very quickly that online banking and investing apps, trading apps, budgeting apps. Now there's buy now, pay later, cryptocurrency. The world of money is changing so fast, and if we don't help our students keep up, the next generation is going to repeat cycles of a lack of financial literacy. So I'm so excited to be here today and support on behalf of NGPF. We're a nonprofit, Next Gen Personal Finance, offering free curriculum to teachers, free teacher professional development training, and free advocacy resources so we can advocate for amazing things like this, right? Having this bill become law is an incredible success. So I'm just so excited to be here. I want to thank Jumpstart. I want to thank Council of Economic Education for partnering with us and working as other nonprofits to support teachers. And I also want to thank the Stiles Nicholson Foundation, which is joining NGPF, and together we're committing $1 million to the state of Florida for teacher professional development. It's my honor to be able to share that, and I'm just thankful to everyone here today for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Amy, where are you at? Come on up.
Good morning, time for class. I'm Amy Nato. I've been an educator in Pasco County the past 15 years, and I'm currently in charge of building the financial literacy and research program for middle school students here. And middle school is a little younger than the high school students that we've been talking about, but it's never too early to start changing lives. And so I have a few students in the back I can wave to, but I think they would tell you about some of the projects that we've done if they could, but I will share instead. So we, on the practical side of things, have lots of projects in our class that incorporate very, very important financial education and literacy and vocabulary and all of the things that students need to know as they're learning. So we've done a quick start budget. Kids are learning how to buy a car, how to invest in NFTs was one of our topics this year, which is very current. They're learning a little bit about crypto, and they're learning about the real estate industry. So they are currently in my classroom building 3D models of their dream houses on Tinkercad. So I think it's very important, and thank you for the chance to speak, and I'm very excited to continue building the curriculum that we have, and to share that with other educators as we begin encompassing this into all of our curriculums. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Corcoran.
Thanks, Governor. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here, and this is just another piece of education agenda items that the governor has pushed and passed. And this one is very, very important. You want kids to see in the full light of day of what's happening to them. And nowadays in the modern economy, if you don't teach kids about their credit and a FICO score. It's being used now for employment. We have about 5% of people being denied employment because of a FICO score and not even knowing what that is. And those are the implications. People with a low credit score spend hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of their life, more than someone with a better credit score, and it's simply because of that score. In addition to that, you got to teach kids, which we see a lot of now, is understanding the value of compound interest. You know, a child who is 21 invests $200 a year till he's 30 and stops and does no more. And then there's a child that never invests until he's 30 and does $200 all the way till he's 68. The difference in their amounts is the child that only did it for the 10 years starting at 21 has $1 million more than the child who started at 30. Those are life impactful things that kids ought to know and ought to know well by the time they graduate from high school. And so it's a great bill, and to President Simpson's point, this has been the brainchild, the passion of former Senator Dorothy Hugel, and so it's a great tribute to President Simpson to tribute Dorothy Hugel for that. So that's wonderful. But I do want to quickly say in closing, it's just one piece. You know, when the governor first got elected, and he was even going back to his inaugural, he said, we're going to make Florida the education state. And all of the things that have happened has just been astounding. He's mentioned whether it's elimination of Common Core, the massive expansion of choice, the massive growth in teacher compensation, and what that does for our classrooms, the growth in career and technical education. And probably one of the more important things, and I want to mention it here, is if you look at the rest of the nation, what happened during COVID and the denial of a seat in a classroom to a child, those repercussions will be felt by this country for decades to come. And Governor DeSantis laid down at the very get-go, we will open our schools to any single child who wants a seat in a classroom. And it's been a profound impact. I also want to give a credit. We're here in Pasco County. Superintendent here in Pasco, longtime Pasco resident. He was my supervisor election when he was 22 when I registered. But Kurt Browning and Pasco were fantastic, opening up schools, not masking kids. Pasco was just a great ground zero county, and we thank you for that. But more importantly, Governor, what has been accomplished in the last 4 years in education under his leadership has been hands down by any metric the most dynamic, expansive educational enlightenment period at any point in time in this country's history. And so we thank you for that greatly.
All right, well, let's get it back. Come on. Yeah. Come on, guys. Get right over here. Come. You're going to get a souvenir pen, too. So if you just lay right there, you will get a souvenir pen. All right. So, what is today's date?
22nd, March 22nd.
22nd of March. All right. Okay, there we go, we got it. All right, you get one, congratulations. There you go. There you go, anyone else? All right, anyone else? There we go. All right, well, good job, guys, we're looking forward to doing this. Thank you. Well, it's exciting, and it was mentioned in some of the comments about things that are kind of evolving in this field, things like cryptocurrency, for example. We are working, and I've told the state agencies, figure out ways where if a business wants to pay tax in cryptocurrency to Florida, we should be willing to accept that. And so we're working through that. I actually had some money in the budget the legislature didn't pick up to try to do some experiment with blockchain technology on some of the state functions. But clearly, something like a Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, that's something that we should be willing to accept when you're talking about that. Having said that, and there's a difference between a decentralized digital currency, cryptocurrency like a Bitcoin, and what some are talking about doing at the federal level to convert U.S. dollars into basically a digital currency. I think there's a lot of hazards with that when that's centrally controlled. I worry about the amount of power that would give someone in a central authority to basically be able to shut off access to purchasing certain goods. You know, we'd be in uncharted territories, and we've seen how some of these financial institutions acting at the behest of government can cut people off. Can you imagine if the federal government actually controlled whether you could even go in? So I know Biden issued an executive order. I'm very concerned about that, and I think it's something that we need to be watching very, very closely. That's different from things that are not run by a government agency like a Bitcoin, which is decentralized. So we will accept Bitcoin. We're working on doing that for our for payments in the state of Florida. Okay.
Follow up on the teacher compensation. You mentioned $2 billion over the course of 3 years, bringing the state in the top 10 for new teacher minimum salaries. There's an NEA report from last year showing the average overall teacher pay was 48 out of 50.
That's a teachers union, though, right?
Well, the NEA, that was their report.
Right, but they're a teachers union,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, and I don't know, that was a 2020 report, so it might not include these latest increases.
Yeah, no, I don't think it has it all. So I think a couple things.
And real quick, Governor, I just want to ask you, they say that there's a compression of salaries because these new salaries are great for starting teachers, but that means that some of the veteran teachers aren't getting as much. They say there's a lot of rules and laws in place about how they can allocate that money. Is there a way for you to maybe address veteran teachers on how you can remove some?
So a couple things on that. What we did by doing the average minimum, that is not just starting teachers. So if you look where some school districts were for what the bottom salary was, and then where we're at now, there was a whole host of experienced teachers that got increases as a result of that. In other words, if a school district is now at $47,500 for the average minimum, prior to me becoming governor, it wasn't just starting teachers who were under it. It was a lot of other teachers as well. So all of them have gotten it. It's not just for starting teachers. In this year's $800 million, what the categorical says is once the districts have fulfilled that kind of goal is to increase the minimum, not starting minimum for everybody, you need to do more for veteran teachers. So I think that there's some that have already done this that will pretty much plow it all into veteran teachers, correct? So that's what we want to do. So we're doing more for veteran teachers this year than when we first launched the categorical in 2020. And next year, we'll do even more because we've made so much headway on that. But even when we did the first $500 million, there was money in that for veteran teachers. The aggressiveness was more with the average minimum, just simply because we were in a situation where it was harder to recruit new teachers, and people that had been there for a few years were leaving because they had other opportunities. And at the end of the day, having a really good teacher can make all the difference between whether kids do really well or not. And teachers are not doing it just for the money, obviously, because, you know, it's not something you're going to become a millionaire off. But to make it so that it's at least attractive, you know, we think is important. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of money for the experienced teachers. And, you know, also I would say, depending on how you calculate this stuff, there's a lot of the stuff like union analysis, they will never count any of the bonuses. So for example, we did $1,000 bonuses for every single school teacher, public school teacher and principal in the state of Florida last year. That does not get reflected in the compensation analysis for some of it. We think, you know, Richard and I think that that's something that should be considered as part of the overall compensation. So bottom line is we've never had this type of momentum in the state of Florida before. And I think if you look over the last however many years, you know, that's a lot of resources that we've dedicated to serving our teachers. Well, look, all I would tell people is, you know, read the bill, and if you have issues with it, articulate those. It's a free country. But, you know, what I don't do are narratives and slogans and people just putting things out that are basically false narratives. And I think that's what happened. I think, unfortunately, Disney's leadership bought into a lot of the false narratives. But I think when you're looking at saying, for our kindergartners, our first graders, our second graders, the classroom instruction they're getting should not be involving, these issues involving sexuality, particularly things like transgenderism, where they're being taught that they may be able to change genders. That's something that parents do not want. That's something that a parent would want to be engaging with their student in. And so I would just tell people it's a free country, do what you believe in, but understand if you are out protesting this bill, you are by definition putting yourself in favor of injecting sexual instruction to 5, 6, and 7-year-old kids. I think most people think that's wrong. I think parents especially think that's wrong. We will sign it, and I've said that for the beginning. It will be relatively soon. I don't think it's going to be tomorrow, but I think it'll be relatively soon. And also just want to make a comment, because last year we signed a bill to ensure fairness in women's athletics. We thought it was very important that young girls and women athletes in the state of Florida had the ability to work hard, to realize their dreams, and to compete fairly, whether it's in swimming, whether it's in track and field, you name it. And that's something that was really meaningful to a lot of people in Florida, particularly people like me who are parents of young girls. So that's something that was really important, and we're glad we did that. If you look at what the NCAA has done by allowing basically men to compete in women's athletics, in this case the swimming, you had the #1 woman who finished was from Sarasota, Emin Wyant. She won the silver medal. She's been an absolute superstar her whole career. She trains. I mean, to compete at that level is very, very difficult, and you don't just roll out of bed and do it. That takes grit. That takes determination, and she's been an absolute superstar, and she had the fastest time of any woman in college athletics. Now, the NCAA is basically taking efforts to destroy women's athletics. They're trying to undermine the integrity of the competition, and they're crowning somebody else the women's champion. And we think that's wrong. And so in Florida, I'm going to be later today, because this is a Floridian who I think deserves to be recognized. We're going to be doing a proclamation saying that Emma is the best female swimmer in the 500-meter freestyle, because she earned that. And we need to stop allowing organizations like the NCAA to perpetuate frauds on the public. And that's exactly what they're doing. They are putting ideology ahead of opportunity for women athletes. And I think that there's just some people that are afraid to speak out and say what they're doing, but that is what they're doing. And so in Florida, we're going to be very clear when they try to do things like that, when they try to undermine the integrity of competition, when they try to counteract the ability of women to realize their dreams. We are going to speak out about that. And so we'll be issuing that proclamation, just because, as somebody that was such a great athlete in Florida, has now moved on to the University of Virginia, we need to honor that appropriately. And if the NCAA was willing to actually ensure the integrity of women's competition, she would have been crowned national champion. Yeah, sure.
I've been emailing back and forth with your office the past couple of weeks. We have a teacher who was arrested for allegations involving a student. Your office took 2 years to find those allegations to be sustained. That was a week after the arrest for doing the same thing in a different school. Is that timeline okay? And another question, should there be some sort of law or anything that if a teacher is under investigation and arrested, and they're under investigation with their department, that their certificate is suspended or flagged until you guys have sustained those allegations or not sustained?
First, on the individual case, we're not allowed to, if it's an ongoing case, comment on it, but
You guys thought it would be sustained?
I'll-
It just took 2 years.
yeah, I'll look into it. But as soon as I became commissioner, we've changed all those rules. As soon as there's an allegation that involves some sort of serious crime or underlying cause, I had rules passed that said that they had to be brought to me within 24 hours. In that 24 hours, I immediately put a notice on their license so that they cannot be in a classroom and everyone's aware of it. And if somebody chooses to ignore that, they have to contact me, and a district chooses to ignore it, they have to contact me directly. But if you want to reach out today, I'll talk to my office and get you more details.
For a sit-down interview, because I have what the county's saying, Polk County, and what Osceola County's saying, what you guys are saying, it's just all different stories, so I would love having.
Yeah, and we've also, with the help of the legislature, we've, at our leadership and insistence with the governor's office, is pushed for a bad actors list, so that now, because what happens is sometimes they'll get away with it in Lee County and then move to Escambia, and there's not a database. So now we're creating a database of bad actors so that those people can't just transplant, even from other states. So.
Yeah, if we can talk about it, this happened in 2021, so it's under your, while you've been there.
Yep.
So how a state statute says there's nothing, it might be a loophole, but I'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, I'll be glad to look into it.
All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.